Spectrovision Radio.
Welcome to Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs. I'm Mallory, and I'm here with my friends and co-hosts Tom and Jordan. And today, we are talking about all the things they said weren't real with my roommate, Candice. Hi, Candice.
Hello. Howdy. How's it going, guys?
Hey,
Great.
Candice is real.
Yeah, you appear to be real.
So, Candice and I go way back. We met in film school, and now we live together in LA. And we have bonded over having a similar religious background and also a similar interest in all things paranormal and mystical and unknown. And Candice has some experiences that I wanted to talk with her about. And really, wherever you'd like to start, Candice, we're interested in all of it. This, like I said, this is the podcast where we talk about things they said weren't real. And I know you have experiences in like all the categories.
Well, we can start with BYU because I think that's where probably one of my most, I don't want to say profound, but the one story where I was like, okay, this I cannot fit in a box that I currently perceive of.
Yes.
So, I got a little bit of a UFO story if you guys would like to hear it.
Well, have you read the title of our show?
Yes, please.
I know. I will do the UFO part of the title. Well, okay, so just to start off, I think just a little bit about like my own personal belief system. I think I fall very well into the ghost part of the title, right? Like I've always been sort of open to that, to sort of spirituality. Like I come from like a line of like ghost friendly people. Like my grandma openly jokes about her mom like haunting her and like breaking mirrors, right, when she's around. Yeah. But like the UFO part of it all, I have never been like very open-minded about. Not closed-minded, but just sort of like, this is probably explainable and also not going to happen to me, right? And like not a common occurrence. This is a like deep in the desert with the FBI sort of situation, not an undergrad at BYU situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was spring of, I want to say 2010 or 2011. I was at BYU and it was the week before finals. And it wasn't the week, it was probably like the day before finals. And I was finally like, I should study and I should buckle down and I should focus and finally take my education seriously. I had like a distinct thought of like, I should open my books and really give this a try. So I was in the middle of studying and my roommate at the time was also my cousin who's a year older than me. And like, we grew up together, right? So like we've shared a childhood from like as early as 2 years old to now we're in our 20s at BYU together. It's evening time and I get a call on my cell phone and she's like, Candice, I need you to walk outside and I need you to meet me. There's something going on and I cannot explain it. And I'm thinking, oh, she's being harassed or like there's like a creeper. There's like, I'm expecting like a bad man situation to be to be happening. She's walking, we're south of campus. She's walking home from the library. So I go outside and the geography of it all is very relevant, right? So I walk outside and I take the back exit to our little apartment complex. And right across the street from us, we're parallel to a new construction site of a new apartment complex that's going up, right? And at the time, the portion of the complex that's being built, it's just like the skeleton of it. So it's just long metal beams, right? These giant beams, this open pit of, concrete and dirt. And then around the corner from us, my cousin is walking, right? And so I run out to her and I'm like, are you okay? What's going on? What are you doing? Right? And she goes, I need you to look up and I need you to look at the sky. And I go, okay. So I look and there's just a giant amber orb floating through the air. Just hovering, just probably like 2 stories high, right? It was like high enough to be like, that is close and that is relatively in height and in line with the buildings around me. I'm, using the space around me to judge where this is. And she goes, that has been following me since I left the library. Like, I have been walking and it has been following the same path as me. She goes, I even stopped somebody, like a jogger. And I said, are you seeing this? And he goes, yeah, I don't know what that is. And just kept going. Like, and so the two of us are avoiding studying, but also having our collective worlds rocked here. Because we're just like, this is something we were just like, maybe this is explainable. Maybe this is a lantern. Maybe this is a school project, right? Like, it's just sort of floating and hovering and moving in a way that I was like, I've never seen anything in nature move this way. And I don't have any back catalog of how things work aerodynamically. I haven't seen a lot of just airplanes, right? That's, we're 19 or we're 20 at the time. And so we're watching it float through, and it's continuing on its trajectory. And right in front of me is the construction site, right? And then beyond the construction site, so the area that we were going to school in, right, it sits in a valley, and there are giant mountains that are very, very close by, right? And these mountains sort of have, valleys that open in between them. But, the mountains, if I'm looking at this, the construction site is right in front of me. And then to my left are multiple large mountain faces that are 10, 15 miles away, but they're far away. So we're watching this amber orb float through, and it floats between all of the different beams of the construction site, right? It floats through, and I'm like, that is behaving in a way that makes sense to me. That makes sense, right? It's in space with those items. And then it floats through the construction site, and then the next most direct thing in my line of sight are the mountains, but the mountains are, they are far away. And there's a little opening between two of the mountains, and the orb just keeps floating through and floats between the two mountain faces that are 10 to 20 miles away, as if it's a 2D space that it's going between, space flattened almost. Yeah. And so it was the construction beams are almost on the same plane as the mountains, and the orb just floats through all of it as if it's all on one single plane.
Yeah.
And we just stood there and we go, did that happen? Did we just see that? Because I remember clearly my brain short circuiting and trying to it's a large orb, right? It's probably in my mind 3 to 4 feet. It's a half a human size sort of situation floating. And I remember seeing it and thinking, this is larger than I anticipated. And I remember seeing it float further away, and I remember there was a little moment where I go, this is not behaving in a way that makes sense to my brain. And my brain, I remember feeling my brain being I'm trying to get you an answer here and I don't understand what's happening also. And I go, okay, me too. And when it slipped through the mountains, I was like, okay, so this is something not of this world. I don't know what this is, but I live in this world, and the rules are you have to walk through a 3D space to get to the mountains that are, several miles away. You can't just go flipping through this space and then, you know what I mean? My X and Y axis were okay, which one is which? There's the Z axis. What's going on here? I remember we just looked at each other, and both of us were just I can't explain that. And also we tried explaining it to other people, and just everyone was sort of flabbergasted. I don't know. And what was funny was, we spent several weeks on this, just slightly overwhelmed, right? We had lots of sort of familial experiences, maybe around ghosts and things like that. But this was Okay, so we sound dumb and crazy, but we are two BYU undergrads who just saw an alien move through our apartment complex. And also, like, why? Like, what's going on in Provo, Utah? That, And then I remember one night my cousin/roommate was like, Candice, I just rented something for us. And it was like a documentary about the Phoenix Lights and like the Phoenix Lights in 1997. And we were like watching it and we were like, oh, that is not exactly, obviously not to that scale, but we were like, amber orbs in the American mountain Southwest. Okay, that's us. Like, is this a leftover Phoenix, like, orb that came through?
Couldn't get home.
And just was like, oh, I got to make my way. Yeah, couldn't get home. So that's always been something that has just, like, I've never been able to answer that. And, like, here's also the funny part is I had, like, a stint working for the production company that produces Ancient Aliens. And like I even presented this to them. I was like, I have my own little alien story, guys. And they're like, listen, Candice, if you self-publish a book with this, we can get you on the show. And I was like, okay, I'm good, guys. Thank you. No shade to the Ancient Aliens folks. They're a great crew of people. I'm not even sure if the show is still being produced. Anyways, that is my little alien tidbit.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to talk with you is because you're so insanely approachable and rational, and I think a lot of experiencers, if not most experiencers, are. And when you just hear someone tell their story, all of it makes sense. Your reaction makes sense. And the way that you're able to laugh about it, the way that you're able to recognize that you still, like when you're having like the conversation with yourself. So I just really appreciate your specific perspective on this. And so could you tell me a little bit more about, so how many years ago was this now? It's like 15 years ago, 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think, 15. Yeah, I think
15 years
this
ago.
was either 2010 or 2011.
You talked about the immediate aftermath that you were like researching and watching documentaries, and what was the reshaping of your reality like? That's one of the things I'm most interested in, because I think we're constantly sort of going to be in states of ontological shock as like the world gets like bigger and bigger and bigger in our just from the perspective of our consciousness. And so the way that you can look at it and process it now, how did you get here? I guess I'm just curious about.
I think for me, it really reshaped, I guess, my assumptions about reality, right? That I'm like, okay, so like, I think about time very linearly, right? Even with the idea of like ghosts, it's like it's an afterlife. It's something that comes, after you've experienced this timeline, and then you have another timeline, but you just don't have your corporeal form. You don't have your physical body anymore. That makes sense, right? I'm consciousness, and my consciousness moves on to maybe something else. With this, and seeing sort of time and space move differently, right? I was just like, I am such a peasant I was just like, I have no idea that the world and time and space can bend in ways that I'm like, I am not giving all of these elements their due respect, and that the fact that these are maybe more flexible or not as permanent as I think they are, right? Just the idea that like something moved through space in a way that I was like, I'm not a science whiz, but I know enough about physics that didn't make sense. And I think that really was unsettling, but also sort of, it's unsettling, and also it's sort of relaxing that you're like, there's so much I don't know. So everything that feels like a hard and fast rule or a hard and fast reality, you're just like, I don't know, guys. Like, orbs can go through mountains. Like, I don't know if we should just be such a hard ass about certain things. I think, yeah, just understanding that like our reality is maybe not the center of the universe as much as I think it is.
It's so interesting to me that your experience, it fits so perfectly into the constellation of UFOs / whatever sightings, experiences I've heard, which is that they always, if they don't get weird, they don't feel real to me. Like it's not just, oh, I saw a flying saucer, right? It's there's something else going on usually, that breaks a certain expectation, that makes it so that you know, this sort of tidy paradigm of what we think reality is like doesn't quite work. And it's also not explainable in strict personal observation consciousness ways either. Like you can't just say, oh, well, it was just in your head, because you were witnessing it with a friend. Like you were both seeing the same
The
thing.
runner saw it. The jogger
Exactly.
saw it.
And the jogger saw
I
it
love
too. He's
that
like, I
part of
can't
the
explain
story.
that. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sort of weird perspective thing that was going on, where there was this like broken parallax between, you know, the z-axis or the y-axis disappeared and whatever.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because it really feels like that is an artifact of something, or it seems to point to this thing that we talk about a lot, which is that these experiences, these sightings of orbs or UFOs or whatever, they seem to be collaborative experiences, that they are taking place both in the physical world somehow, but also they are taking place in your mind. And so your perspective of what, you know, what three dimensions are is going to influence how the object behaves, but the object may not behave in a way that makes sense to the laws of physics as you understand them, even though it is entirely influenced by your perception of it. It's like very, very fascinating. This like strange interplay. It's almost meant to break down your expectations. It's like, it's what it's trying to do, is saying, hey, you think you know what this spatial area is, but you don't. And I'll show you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I thinking back at it, I also thinking about like the role of being like a witness, right? And thinking about the place that it was happening at, where I'm like, this is a pretty boring, sleepy college town, right? And I am a boring college student with not a lot of voice or authority in life. And that played out. I was like, I would tell people about this and they would be like, why would it happen there? And also, why would it happen to you? And I go, I don't know. I don't know. That's a great question. I'm kind of asking the same thing, you know?
I have so many questions, and I'm going to start with the beginning and the end. So your cousin called you and said, can you come out here, please? And then when you went there, she said, this has been following me since I left the library. So however long that was. And then you watched it together, and it got weird. I want to know why she thought it was following her. And I want to know, when did the experience end? Did it just stick around and you guys were okay, like, screw it, I got to go to bed? Or
so for her, she was the library was probably like 2 to 3 city blocks, or 2 to 3 blocks away. And so she was walking and noticed it was like on the same path as her. It's like kind of like a just like straight line from like school to like apartment, but just like through several large blocks. And it just kept going in the same path as her. And she's like, this is going to the same place that I am apparently going, and people are seeing it. And I keep walking, and I now need to call someone to be like, am I losing something in my mind, or is that thing actually here with me? And we're kind of walking towards the same place. And then for us, like we were both sort of sitting on the corner of like 2 streets in front of the construction site with our apartment behind us. And as it like flew between the mountains and disappeared, we both looked at each other and we were just like, I don't really know what to do now, but that just happened and you saw it and I saw it. And we should probably go inside.
so it did disappear.
Yeah, it disappeared. Think of it like this, like there's like 2 mountains that are like right next to each other. And then it flew between those 2 as if like sliding through like doors, but the mountains were far away from us.
Did you see the movie Nope, Candice? Isn't there like a very similar, almost like forced perspective emergence of a UFO, which I mean, and we know Jordan Peele does his research. We know he does his research. So for sure, you were probably not the only person to experience a sort of like collapsing of planes in an emergence or an exit.
Yeah, and I think when that happened, there was a moment where there was a little bit of like deep fear and like, okay, this thing just disappeared. Is there just a chance the world's about to end? Like, are we just about to explode?
Well, we're Mormon. We're like constantly prepared for the world about to end. It's just like one of our inheritances, unfortunately. So it makes sense. Well, and that actually brings me to my other question for you, Candace, which is like, were you afraid? Like, how were you feeling?
I think as it was happening, because I was called in to be a witness for somebody else, I was like, let me try to find a reason this is happening, right? Like, I was sort of like, I want to help you feel okay. And then as it kept floating, it definitely was wonder. I was like, this is I mean, it's like a giant cylinder drum that is an amber orange floating through the sky. It's beautiful. I remember it being distinctly beautiful. And then the minute it went through the mountains, then just absolute like fear of God. Just like, I remember my heart sinking and just being like, oh, there's definitely no chance that just happened to be a really robust paper lantern that just was on a really like smart, like, like drone experience. I was like, no, okay, so I don't know if it's going to go through, and then maybe other things will come through the mountains. I kept being like, okay, why did it go between the mountains? What's in between the mountains? Are there other orbs? Are there people? Like, what's happening? And there's always sort of the like stories and folklore about like, the canyons and just vibes of otherworldliness happening there, or creepiness. And so it definitely, like, as we're talking about it, I'm remembering and like re-experiencing that like feeling of just absolute dread. And it was momentary because nothing happened and it was fine. But it definitely was like both of my cousin and I just looking at each other being like, so should we plan to say goodbye to the world? Like, do we need to call our moms?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Did you feel anything apart from just seeing it? Did you get any other senses, any kind of knowledge, any other feeling or understanding? Number one. Number two, can you say definitively that you feel like it was intelligent?
I remember when it was close to me not feeling scared of it.
Yeah.
Right? I remember as it was floating through feeling like just sort of just neutral about it. And I remember some of the thoughts I was processing as it was floating through. I was like, oh, it's aware enough that it is moving and like moving through things. It's avoiding collisions, right? It's like, because we had these giant beams that were going to make up a large apartment complex. And so it's elegantly going between the beams, almost in like a jellyfish sort of way.
Or like a Roomba.
Yeah, like a Roomba. Yeah, like, yes. The universe's tiny Roomba that came to visit me in space. And I remember thinking, this thing might be conscious, might be like, this isn't just it's not just a paper lantern. It's not just a thing floating. It's like aware of where it's going. That's, I think, something that came very clearly is like, it had a place to be. It was going on a trajectory and like had somewhere it was supposed to be. So I was like, so either this is intelligence or it's being controlled by intelligence, but it has like a very clear direction that it's going.
When I was young, these guys know this. I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, and when I was in high school, I went to see the Brown Mountain Lights, which are colored orbs that appear on a mountain about a mile away from where you can go view them. And they were different colors. They weren't, I don't remember. I remember like green and red, and they kind of, they acted all kinds of different ways. They shot in the air like bottle rockets, and they squiggled, and they did all kinds of stuff. But I remember looking through binoculars at one green one as it moved around young trees about 3 feet off the air. It was around just exactly what you're saying. And it really struck me when you told that part of the story. I was like, I saw that. I know what that feels like. And I thought at the time, it's so beautiful. I could see the color of its light reflected on the saplings or the young trees. I was like, that's just gorgeous. It didn't do any shattering of the parallax view stuff. But like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And yonks ago, we had an episode about conscious plasma. And so it's interesting to me that you're like aliens and UFOs, but like, honestly, I don't know. Okay, that's what I meant to say is I actually have no idea. And I don't have a question. I actually am thrilled that you had that experience. And I'm assuming that afterwards you guys probably to some extent are still sort of doing a debrief and going like, okay, do you remember when it did this? Did you see that it did that? And really just, you both had the same experience.
Yeah, we both had the same experience. And as like time has gone on, we'll kind of bring it up every once in a while and just be like, remember how the end of college got really weird for a lot of reasons?
Yeah. I mean, not even for the normal reasons.
Exactly. It was just like, welcome to adulthood. Here are aliens.
The world is big and mysterious, and it only gets stranger. That's kind of the takeaway. I feel like that continues to be the story for me, that's for sure. It's not what you think it is forever. That's it.
And also it can just show up and just be so damned beautiful. And there's no reason. You didn't earn it. You weren't looking for it. It's just you get a phone call, hey, I need you to come out. And then all of a sudden you have this experience, which is unique in your entire life. Maybe, I don't know. I have to ask an unrelated question. Are those Lotería cards behind you in that frame?
They are.
What do they mean to you?
I think for this particular set, this was a vintage set that I found on sale, and I bought it from a guy from Echo Park, and I go, oh, just like kind of a hipster dude, and it was a little bit like, I'll take these into my home because they're maybe a little bit a part of like who I am culturally, and so yeah, I spend a lot of time in front of this camera in a professional setting. And it's a nice little reminder of like culturally who I am, where I belong, and just to have like, to have it stated without it being stated. Right. And I think for me, I tend to, in general, like a lot of things that are mystic, spiritual. And I think both sides of my family kind of have that. And I've always really enjoyed that. I hope that makes sense, Tom.
100%. When we left a house, the house that I wrote about, we opened a closet when we were moving out, and a new pack of Lotería cards flew out, and they had never been in that closet before. And we kept them.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, I live a weird life. But we used them as divination. The day that I asked Emrys to marry me, I had my little ring, doing a terrible job lying and pretending it was something else. And I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a tarot reading, but I'm going to use the Lotería deck. And then at the end, for the conclusory card or whatever, I'm going to put the ring down. And then I get started. I'm like, I'm going to do a reading for you. And she's like, well, you're already acting super weird, so why not? Whatever. And then at that very moment, I was like, oh, I don't know what these cards are going to say. They could go like, nope, bad idea. Nope, don't do it. Who knows?
Seriously.
And I was like, well, I'm in it. Oh, shoot. Every single card was about how happy we are and how we're going to get married and how it's beautiful and he has a gift for you. And the very last card was the bird. You have me jumping like a bird on a branch. Aww. And I put the ring down.
Tom, you've never told that story.
I love this.
Anyway, I love those cards. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful. And I love that you have that.
Oh, Tom, thank you for sharing that. I love that. I got engaged recently, so that was a fun little.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Our nuptials are
You know the one I'm
imminent.
talking about? Is it the Panjaro? I'm so bad. But it's the bird. It's the card with the bird on it. And we were going to do a thing that when we get a house back in Southern California, we're going to have the fireplace, and every one of those cards from that reading are going to go into the fireplace. We're going to, because you can, in Old Town San Diego, you can get Lotería cards as tiles at this store, and they're very beautiful.
Oh, cool.
And so we're going to get every one and put it in there. I don't know why I keep talking about us, but I love. You see it?
No, it's great. It's great.
That's awesome.
You see that card? Yeah. Okay.
Candice, while we
Yeah, I
have
do.
you,
I have.
would you mind just telling us Your Disneyland story too?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to the ghost part of the title of your guys' show. So first off, I love this story, and I also have like photographic evidence of it. So I have like Disneyland has been a part of my life since like I'm from California. My dad is a like high school retired now, but he's a high school like choir teacher, and it was just a fixture in our like family that like there's the high school choir field trip to Disneyland and California Adventure, their second park. And so one year I was once again, guys, college, early 20s. I don't know what was in my cosmic like energy, but weird stuff was happening. It's gotten really normal since. I was actually participating as a chaperone that year. I was old enough, and you know what the usual like agenda is: you take the kids to Disneyland, they perform a 30-minute show. They have, you know, high schools coming throughout all of the United States to do, you know, shows there. My dad, you know, this has been something that like a lot of my siblings have done. And then the rest of the trip is open and the kids have fun and it's a great time. So, you know, it's the evening after they have performed. The kids are just hyped and they had a great show. And I'm kind of just loosely watching this group of like 10, 12 kids. And in the group includes my like younger sister who's also there, a friend of hers, and they're a little bit older, they're alumni at this point, but like we're all sort of hanging out, right? And we go to get in line for what at the time was Screamin' California. So it's the big roller coaster in California Adventure that has like the Mickey, right? Like the Mickey loop. Mm-hmm. It's now the Incredicoaster. And so we're in line and, you know, I'm kind of the like adult tag along. I'm not really like in the group. I'm just sort of watching to make sure everyone is just being a good, you know, good human. And so the kids are in line and we're going through and we finally kind of get to the front and I get a little bit separated from the group and I'm also kind of the odd man out and I sit by myself. So all the kids are in front of me. They're all in the carts, you know, in front of me. And I'm sitting by myself, and so there's always a separate line for single riders at this ride. And I remember the attendant calling someone from the single rider line to come and sit with me. And very distinct memory, right? It was a young girl in her teens, oversized, like Abercrombie, you know, some sort of like mall retailer sweater on and shorts, kind of mousy hair, light brown hair, but just quiet. And, you know, she comes in, she sits down, and that ride, you do a little bit of you kind of coast before you get started. And I'm sitting there, I'm an adult, and I'm, you know, with a child, and I kept having this feeling, I'm like, I should say something. It's like a kid with a stranger on a roller coaster. It's potentially, like, anxious, scared energy. Just want to let her know that I'm just a kind person, entity, just here to have a good time. Go ahead, you know, don't worry. But anyways, I like every time I feel the like urge to say something, I like just kind of hold back. And so the ride starts and you get to like a launch point, right? So you kind of coast for a little bit and then you're pause and then there's a huge launch that happens. So I'm having all these thoughts and I'm about to turn and then we launch and then we get started, right? And the coaster is just, you know, zipping you through. And, you know, I'm in the first throes of roller coaster. I'm having a great time. I'm screaming. I'm shouting. I'm kind of like trying to hear for the kids that I'm watching and making sure that they're okay. And I just have a passing thought that I'm like, oh, she's not screaming. There's nothing really happening there, but well, whatever. Right? And the coaster ends. And even at that point, I kind of want to turn and say something of like, did you have a good time? Or what'd you think? Right? I've got perpetual big sister energy. And so I go to do that and I'm getting my stuff and I'm grabbing my bags and I'm, you know, checking for all the kids to make sure that they get off. And right before I could say something, she's just like out and off and into like the crowd, right? I go, okay. So at that point, my focus is to get off the ride and there's a staircase that takes you directly down. There's tons of people passing you by, zooming through crowds. And I'm like, okay, focus, get to the kids. They're all in front of you. They're all waiting for me at the TVs that have your photos, right? You get a photo taken on the ride. And I'm coming down the stairs, and my sister is at the bottom of the stairs, and she comes and like runs up to me halfway down these stairs, and she's like, Candice, somebody was sitting next to you, right? Because she's in the two, it's a cart of 4. And so she's in front, her friend is in front, I'm in the back of the cart, and then there's our, our +1. And so I go, yeah, yes, we were all there. You heard them call somebody in. She goes, okay, because can you look at your photo? And so she pulls me up to the screen, and I have this like group of teenagers just all like wide-eyed, just staring at me. And I'm like, what is the big deal, guys? And I finally like lock eyes onto my TV that has my picture, and I look and I go, sister, friend, myself. And then I look and I go, that's an empty chair. And it's a similar experience to the alien thing where you're just like, at first we're going to take the rational route, because if we lead into the irrational route, we might scream. But I'm sitting there and I go, okay, let's go ask the attendants. And, I'm giving Disney a lot of credit in this question. I go, hey, do you guys edit your photos as they come out? Like maybe she flipped the camera off and they have like magic.
Totally.
Remember, this is like 2013. Maybe they have magic that will like Photoshop that out. And they're like, no, if somebody does something crass, we just delete the whole photo. Like we can't edit these. We only have like accept or delete. That's it. I go, oh, okay. And I'm kind of just sort of grasping what's happening. And I go, okay, because there was a person in that chair and they're not in the photo. What does that mean? And and the attendant just looks at me and she goes, I don't know, like just sort of like, leave me alone. Like, she just was like, I don't know. And so all the kids are like, they start like freaking out. Like I have a teenage mob just screaming and being like, oh my gosh, because we're like, was that a ghost? So we're all standing there and I take a photo of the screen, and I've had that photo saved to my phone for years. And a lot of people have always questioned me, like, why Disneyland? Why would there be a ghost at Disneyland? I go, the happiest place on earth. I don't know, guys. Like, people experience memories. I have no idea. I have no idea what an agenda is for a spirit. That's on them, not me.
Let me tell this story just as quickly as possible because I cannot not tell it. Emrys, my wife, who also grew up Mormon, was at Disneyland with her family, her mom, her mom's twin sister, and at least two of their two sister cousins. They went on Space Mountain. All right, can you come here very quickly? Emrys is going to come tell this story.
Yes, it's Disneyland stories.
It's the Disneyland story. She just had a ghost ride on the roller coaster.
Disney as a whole, I think, is haunted.
This is Emrys. This is Candice. This is Mel.
Hey, Emrys.
Hello.
Hey, y'all. So, once upon a time, we went to Disneyland and we went on Space Mountain. You guys know Space Mountain? Super spooky already. And my mom and her twin sister are like super weird, right? Like they're just spooky twins. And weird stuff happens like when they're together. But this was particularly strange because it seemed to have involved every single rider on the roller coaster. So we get on, I'm sitting with my sister in the front row. And we're in the very, very front. There's nobody in front of us. My mom gets us in behind. She's going to ride by herself. Except she's not. And I was like, what the fuck? There's like a scary child in like a hoodie sitting like where I thought my mom was sitting, but my mom had scooted behind me. And so it's like, it's Caitlin and me and then my mom and then now suddenly this terrifying like thing in a hoodie. And I just get this like, okay, here we go. And it starts taking off like in the slow. It's like a slow, whatever. And I like turn around to my mom, I'm like, are you okay? She was like, I don't know. And I just get this like sudden fear, just like utter terror, like for no reason. And I look at my sister and she's just looking straight ahead, like deadpan. And then it gets quieter and quieter. And you shoot off into space or whatever, and it's like, there's no music. There's no music.
What?
It's just dark. You can just hear the wheels of the roller coaster the whole time. It's like, and there's nothing else. Nothing else. And so, and I'm sitting there, and I just suddenly get this like image of like my mom being attacked by like the girl next to her, and like the centrifugal force. And I'm just like, and I'm trying to look around, and I'm like, no one's screaming. There's nobody making a sound. Nobody's screaming. No one's laughing. There isn't any music. It's just a fucking roller coaster, and that's it. And my sister next to me the whole time, just straight ahead, not moving. And there's that one part where it kind of like spirals down, you know what I'm talking about? Like that, like, and it kind of like you're just like pushed up against the whole time. In that moment, it went on for like, you know how like roller coasters are like, oh, that was over faster than I wanted it to be. This went on for like 7 hours. Like it felt like it was going and going and going for like literally probably like 2 or 3 minutes. And everything just seemed to like get slower, and it got like, it was just bizarre. And so it ends, and I'm like, wow, that was the worst Space Mountain experience I've ever had. And I get off and I'm like looking for my mom, and I was like, Mom, are you okay? And she was like white as a sheet. And I like literally cannot understand. She's like, ugh. And you know how you have like the little meeting place of the thing? And I was like, Mom, she was like, she was like, you're going to think I'm crazy. But the girl who was sitting next to me, I kept getting an image of her leaning over and cutting my throat open. And I don't know why. And I didn't react. I wasn't stopping. I just couldn't move. I was just like holding still. And then my aunt, who was sitting behind her in the car, so it's like, you know, have 6 cars. Like you can ride 6 people to a car. My aunt behind her, we're like in that little, where they see the horrible pictures and whatever. And she runs up, she's like, oh my God. She's like, what was that? And we were like, what? She goes, I was literally trying to like figure out how I could unhook my seatbelt so I could like grab the girl who was sitting next to you, because I just kept getting this feeling she was going to attack you. And we're freaking out. It's just the 3 of us, because there's only 3 of us. And I was like, why was nobody screaming? And I went over to Caitlin, and I was like, why weren't you screaming? She was like, I don't know.
Wow.
And I was like, let's go look at the picture, because I want to see this. I want to see this thing. And she pulled her hoodie over her face, so we couldn't see her. And I'm like, why would she do that? And then I got this like that sudden like, do you know that feeling? You know that feeling when like you know, like there's nothing really obviously wrong, but it's just like you get a little heavier in your body. And I turn around, and she's looking right at me, and she has, like, I swear to God, completely black eyes. Completely black eyes. And she's giving me this like, if she could kill me with a look, she would. And I just got frozen, and I was just, we have to get out of here. We have to, and like everybody else has no idea what's going on. It's just the twins and me, and everybody thinks we're just being like super dramatic, like drama queens. And it was just like, and I don't know what that was. I don't know why we all at the same time had the same inclination to think that my mom was in like mortal danger from this child. She looked like but it was like weird. It was like a very much like an orphan situation. You know the movie The Orphan, where she's like, I'm a child, but she's like a 42-year-old woman. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. I do know
that was the
story.
vibe. That was the vibe. It was like, it's a child, but it's not a child.
It's something wearing a child, you know?
It was something wearing a child.
I am freaking out.
That's my story.
That is a crazy story. Thank you for telling it.
Did you freak
him out?
I just have the quickest question.
out?
So nobody heard anything the whole time? Like there was no screaming or music for anybody?
Not for anybody.
Weird.
I know.
Weird.
I know.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
that's my story. Okay, bye guys.
Disneyland. Yeah. So Disneyland is a place for
It's liminal. It's completely liminal.
That's crazy.
liminal. Why do you think it's liminal, Tom?
Because so many people are there, and there's so much energy, and you can pass unseen. And also, like I said, the whole thing about Disneyland, every ride is a life review.
That's nuts.
Freaking Pirates of the Caribbean, life review.
It's true.
We got to stop. We're late.
Yeah.
We're late for our open epilogue. Candice, it was so good to meet you.
Candice, thank you so much.
Guys, let's all go to Disneyland together.
Yes.
Yes. Couple of quick reminders before you go. First off, if you haven't left a rating on your platform of choice, please do that. One of the first things people look at when they're judging a show by its cover is the number of ratings it has. So if you dig what we're doing, show it with stars. In our second ever open epilogue, some of our listeners asked about the show's origin story. All three of us talked about our so-called faith journeys, and we somehow wound up deconstructing the problem of evil. If you want to hear it, go to godsghostsufos.com or find the link in the description. See you next week, friends.